Here's how I gained 20 kilos after a photo shoot, and you want to do the opposite. So as a good old right, 27 years old, and I decided to do a photo shoot, which was my third one out of the last 10 years. I got in amazing shape and got absolutely in best shape I've ever been in my life. And then it all went downhill afterwards. And therefore, in about 6 weeks to 7 weeks, I'd already gained 20 kilos and all of the weight that I'd gained lost off. And here's how you can avoid that. So straight away after the diet, I went and did a all you can eat in the Burj Al Arab in Dubai. At that point, I walked in with a nice shirt on. I had a tan from the photo shoot. I took my mum and it was a lovely occasion. After the end of the all you can eat scones, lots and lots of dates, lots of food, my t-shirt popped open because of the amount of water retention I already had by the time I'd finished the meal. At that point, my hunger was so high. And at that point, when you're doing a diet, your hunger can be insatiable, something that you cannot really put a hole into. You always feel like you're a bottomless pit, and it would just lead you to eating more calories than you can actually register, and you end up having thousands and thousands of calories without having that feeling of fullness. And if you chase the feeling of fullness, which is my tip number one, after a diet, do not chase the feeling of fullness because you won't get it. If you dieted down to a large enough extent, your hunger will be in a different place. Think of traffic lights. Your hunger in the normal place when you lose 5 to 10 kilos and you're like 20-25% body fat and you're like 15% body fat, your hunger will be green and red. You're hungry, it's green, red is when you're not hungry. When you get to low body fat percentages or you diet for a really extended period of time, your hunger will just flick between red and green very fast, and then eventually it will just be all green, which means that you won't be full, you'll never have that like satiation, you will just be green even though you don't need it because your body is saying that you need more food, which is a mistake. The traffic light system is broke. Therefore, what you do after a diet is you stick to your guns and your regiments and your structures and don't chase the feeling of fullness. It'll always lead you back to where you were before. Think of homeostasis. You come down from here down to here. It takes some time to register your new baseline. Your body will want to go back up to here because that's what it's known for the last 20 years, for example. So it takes a while to stay down here and then acclimatize. So you don't want to eat like the other person 20 kilos heavier because that's what your body's trying to do. Not because it's meant to, not because that's what it wants, because that's all it knows. Don't make that my first mistake, which is don't eat to feel the hunger, eat for a structured basis. Number two is I booked a holiday straight after. I went to Thailand, scuba diving on Koh Tao, thought it'd be amazing. By the time I got there, I was already 5 kilos up. Then the water retention from the flight left me with ankles the same size as elephant feet, and it made it really difficult to scuba dive. There's a story I tell in one of the first ever podcasts that I ever did, and I talked about how I nearly failed my scuba diving test because I couldn't float at the top because my feet were dragging me down. Like I had lead at the bottom of my feet and I was just dragging down to the bottom of the pool. So when I went scuba diving, I would end up just sinking as opposed to actually being able to scuba dive and learn the lessons, which is really frustrating, but also moderately funny when looking back at it, but it wasn't advantageous. That amount of edema, that amount of swelling was really negative. So I went on holiday with no plan, no structure, and just thought I'm going to eat what I want because I was in that mindset where I didn't care. Now, looking back, you have to care if you want a different outcome, and you have to think about what happens afterwards as opposed to just the day of when you're getting in amazing shape. The plan afterwards was not there. And if I would have done it again, I would have a plan of the structure of my food, taking lesson number one of not trying to fill a hole of just eating until I'm satiated. And I would look at creating like a structure with breakfast, lunch and dinner, and having frequent meals across the day and basically getting into a pattern and a rhythm, very similar to how I was before, and just changing maybe some of the food sources, whether I was in Thailand or Koh Tao or having different variations in food. I would have the structure roughly the same. Some protein, some carbohydrates, some fruit, and basically have that structure throughout the day as opposed to the wheels are off. Breakfast was 3 croissants and an all-inclusive breakfast. Then lunch was out and having a couple of courses and beers, and the next one was dinner out again, and it was just this recipe for disaster really. And I expected it to go differently, even though I was eating like a dickhead, but the results always, it's an A plus B equals C mentality. If you eat like a dick, you overconsume calories, you get the ramification for it. So I'd have a plan in place for when you're on holiday. I probably wouldn't book a holiday after a diet anyway, again, and I don't recommend that with clients. It's great to have a day that you celebrate and you push towards, but you don't want to go on holiday just after you finish the diet, because mindset wise, you're just going to give that as an excuse. Oh, I've really worked hard. Oh, I sacrificed. I didn't have my biscuits. Now I want to eat it all. You're in a different routine. You're in a different pattern. You're in a holiday mode, fuck it mode. And therefore it's only going to come back when you're 10 kilos heavier or even more than that, which I experienced. The third mistake that I made was that I told myself I would diet again after the holiday. And I see this with clients all of the time. They go away. They say, they go and smash it and they go, oh yeah, but when I get back, I'll be good again. And that's technically a psychological trick that you play on yourself to overconsume now. It's a mindset thing. I told myself that I would diet when I got back, which meant that I just cemented my efficiency of eating like a dickhead for the whole of the holiday, knowing that I would come back and I would diet. But the thing is because you have an end date of like, oh, I'll come back on Monday and I'll smash it, you just overconsume more because you're already thinking about the diet that you're going to go on, which will be restrictive, and then you're then going to just eat more to make up for the fact that you're going on a diet. And then when you get back, you have more weight to lose. You've got more unconfidence with the way that you look. You're in a worse spot. And then you have to diet more because you then told yourself that you're going to go on a diet, which then you overconsume more food. So you end up spending double the time in a diet after you get back and maybe not even getting there. The thing is that when you diet the first time, you get that weight off, and then you have that holiday and that break. The motivation, the desire of why you went away, maybe the holiday was the desire, maybe you getting in shape for a couple of days before the holiday was the thing that you wanted to get in shape for. So when you get back, you have less motivation, less drive, less ability to diet and restrict yourself, and therefore the 20 kilos that you gained, where you imagined all on Monday you're going to get back onto, you end up losing 3 to 5 kilos, and then you think, fuck, this can't be arsed, and you're still 15 kilos up. That's what happened to me. It took me 3 months to get the whole thing off. After I had waves of this motivation, I was like, oh, I've dropped 5, I don't want to restrict anymore. You know, I've told my friends that beforehand that I'll come back to eating dinners and stuff like with them. So you find yourself in a convoluted position where you're 15 kilos up or 10 kilos up or 5 kilos up, and you end up not doing the diet because you don't want to, and you don't want to restrict anymore because of what you did before. So you end up in this vicious cycle where you've dieted for a holiday or you dieted for a deadline. You then have this massive blowout that you told yourself you're going to diet again when you get to Monday. You don't get all of the weight off, and then you end up with this cycle of you're now up more weight, can't be asked to diet, and then you also feel like you're still restricted and still in that mindset that you've had before. It's a messy pattern that ends up like you more weight, less happiness, convoluted between your dieting, and it's just messy. So if I was in that situation again, what would I do? I would not tell myself that I was going to diet when I got back. When you get back, it's going straight into maintenance, which means that you can't justify more food when you're out in Thailand or wherever you're going. So what that means is that you make more appropriate decisions and scale things as a push and pull as opposed to all in. You know, you're going to have lower breakfast, lower dinners, and then be able to then have a nice evening out. And then that will manage things much better. You'll do more steps because you know that when you're back, you're not going to force yourself to diet or psychologically let yourself diet. And then when you get back, you're less weight, you're all right, and then you can just move back into maintenance, drop a few pounds from just water weight, and then you can steadily just stay there. Your motivation is going to be higher, your efficiency, effectiveness of the mindset is going to be there, and you're not yo-yo dieting. So I would always give yourself no alternative to come back and diet. And we use that all the time with our clients. And what it does, it puts pressure on them to make better decisions on the holiday as opposed to passing off the buck of accountability, responsibility, and just coming back fat. And they are the 3 big things that I would do again if I didn't want to gain 20 kilos after a diet, and hopefully that helps you too.